On this episode of
Postcards from the Fringe,
BT takes us on a storytime adventure through his explorations of the Apache Death Cave, located in Two Guns, Arizona in the United States. Let us know in the comments some creepy places that you explored. Give the show a thumbs up, subscribe, and find more videos like this at www.deathscience.tv. And now, for this evening's postcard.
Deep in the Arizona desert, there's this ridge called Canyon Diablo. And inside Canyon Diablo, there is this cave that's haunted the locals for generations. The local folklore suggests that there's a curse on the boomtown of Two Guns that's been in place ever since the 1900s massacre at the Apache Death Cave. Now, they've attempted to populate the town a couple times, and each effort has been met with crushing failure, usually due to all of the sudden onset disease. But the buildings are still standing out there, like bones in the desert. It's kind of marking the spot. The following is a true story. Viewer discretion is advised. In the late 1800s, the Apache and Navajo were at war, and the battlefield that they had chosen for this war was the middle of the goddamn desert. Sun Tzu called this death ground in the art of war, because the idea is mortality hangs over the enemy like a cloud and forces them to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do. They can feel that their number is almost up, the clock is ticking. On death ground, you got no choice, your back's against the wall, and you either fight your way out or you die. Now, I don't know if the Apache or Navajo ever read The Art of War, but they seem to be in agreement with old Zoo, because they went absolutely buck wild out there. So it started with an Apache raiding party, dropping in on two established Navajo settlements and leveling them, killing all the men and children and most of the women. There wound up being only 3 young girls who were taken prisoner, squirreled them away back to Apache HQ. This, as you might imagine, did not sit great with the Navajo. And they went ahead and sent out 25 of their best warriors to settle the score. Sort of like Inglourious Bastards, but American Aboriginal. So the Navajo are tracking the Apache through Canyon Diablo, and the trail's cold, and there's nothing. Right? There's no tracking them down. It's just like ghosts. They're gone. And it was just chance that they wound up next to a vent that carried up the sound of them murmuring in this huge cave system that's underneath the canyon. So they trace the murmuring back to the source, which is the only ground level entrance to this cave. And they call in, they're like, "We know you're in there, come on out, we're gonna negotiate." So the Apache are like, "Oh, okay." So this was pretty standard practice among the small tribal wars in early America. There was sort of an established system of bartering for forgiveness, because there have to be, otherwise you were just fighting nonstop. And they laid out the demands, and the Apache were like, "Okay, you know what, that sounds pretty fair." And the Navajo were like, "And the other thing is, we want those 3 girls back." And the Apache were like, "Yeah, let me go talk to the guys about that." And he just dips back into the cave, because the girls are already dead. So the Navajo realize they've been duped, and as you can imagine, they were pissed. So the Navajo, they go ahead and they build this massive bonfire at the mouth of the cave, right? And they're just throwing in these green sticks and twigs and stuff. And they proceed to kill the horses and pile them in like a wall in front of the entrance to the cave. So all this smoke is being carried into the cave system, and there's this wall of dead horse standing in the way, preventing anyone from getting out. So when the Apache come trying to run out, they either killed them on the spot, or when they were trying to climb over all the dead horses, and then added their bodies to the burning wall of horse bodies. So all told, 46 Apache died in that cave. And when the smoke cleared, the Navajo went in, looted the bodies, recovered everything that was taken, from their settlements and reclaimed the corpses of the 3 girls for proper burial. So the dated horror movie cliche is Indian burial ground, right? And that's normally something like just moving the grave markers. This is 46 dead warriors choked to death in a cave. You have to imagine that's exponentially less respectful. Legend has it, you can still hear the wails at all hours. And by night, ghostly figures patrol the canyon, choking in the dark. Which brings us back to the moribund attempts at settling the canyon. And the little town of 2 Guns, named thus because it's about all that was really there. They tried to make it a mining camp with 1 tavern, but that fell apart real quick after just this sudden explosion of disease that came out of nowhere. In more modern times, they tried to throw up a gas station, but that fell apart pretty quick too. The reasons are unknown. The ruins kept, though. So, when I went out there, I pulled off Highway 40 and parked in just this overgrown disaster of a parking lot, and wound my way around to the ruins of the gas station, which was obviously a party spot for teenagers. Now, it's possible the tavern and gas station were also used as squats, because next to all the discarded Natty Light cans, there were like these beds of fiberglass. The walls were covered with graffiti art, and for some reason, religious discourse? The ground was pretty much exclusively anti-capitalist propaganda, which made sense in as much as the area that is 2 Guns is now privately owned, and there are all these no trespassing signs that obviously no one abides by. But apparently it's enough to still incite that anti-establishment fervor. The barbed wire didn't look like it had been set up to keep anyone out, because it was all spotty and missing at parts. It was more an obstacle course, so you earn your way onto the desecrated ground. The other obstacles were loose rocks, scorpions, and Apache ghosts. I made it through the first 2 and went hunting down the 3rd. And even by the light provided by sunset, it took me an hour to find the entry to the cave, and it had caved in. So it wasn't all the way closed, but like, I wasn't getting in there. Maybe like a child could get in there, but shouldn't. And so I crouched there at the mouth of the cave, and I squinted into the darkness, and I wondered if anything was in there squinting back. I didn't see anything, but I did hear the moaning, low and insistent, despite the fact that there was no wind. When night well and truly fell, I had run out of water. It goes pretty quick in the desert. I decided I probably wasn't going to get any wisdom from beyond the grave here, no forgotten medicine. If I got anything, it would be a ghost disease, and then I'd die. I didn't think I'd get a ghost disease, but it's like a simple cost-benefit analysis. So I took a couple pictures of the cave, hoping that like maybe you could get those little like blurry orbs, little ghost orbs that you get sometimes. I was hoping for those. And the entire picture was so blurry that you could barely tell it was a cave, which could mean that there were so many ghosts that you couldn't even see the rest of the picture, but it could also mean that my camera was bad. And then after that I went to Flagstaff to eat goat cheese and drink beer that had pears in it. So, there you have it. The ruins of 2 Guns stand sentinel to this day right off Highway 40. Private property to someone who obviously doesn't care about it, and populated only by the ghosts and by the teens who go there to drink cheap, bad beer and sleep in fiberglass. So if you pull off the highway and you leave your car in what's left of the parking lot, and you follow the barbed wire fence around to the gap. Along the barbed wire fence, through the naturally occurring rattlesnake preserve, you can find your way to the narrow caved-in aperture that now marks the entry site to the cave system that contains the bones of 46 Apache warriors, just left to rot. And if you do make it to that entrance, and you lean way over and look into the dark, You might even hear those old forgotten voices still whispering their warnings or their threats. This has been BT Bastard Travel, courtesy of Death Science. Hit us up at www.deathscience.tv for more videos like this, and get the full story from my blog at www.bastardtravel.com. All right, see you next time.
Thanks for joining us at www.deathscience.tv. We hope you enjoyed and have been inspired by this episode of
Postcards from the Fringe
with BT Chieftain. You can find and support his adventure blog at www.bastardtravel.com. Oh, let us know in the comments, would you ever venture into the Apache Death Cave? Till next time, stay curious and stay creepy.